Today is my author anniversary. I have been a published author for 7 years, and in that time, I become a multi-time best-selling author. I've had the opportunity to speak on stages across the country and virtually across the world. I've had some really cool opportunities, and I'm going to break down a little bit of what's happened over the last 7 years. So going way back to 2017, and earlier than that, I actually started to work in the publishing space before I was published. So I spent several years working with authors, teaching them how to market their books, how to do stuff within the publishing industry. I worked very closely with a lot of publishers and a lot of authors, so I had a ton of insight into the industry. I did a lot of research. I did a lot of marketing work to make sure that before I stepped into this industry, I knew what I was doing and I understood what I was getting myself into, because being an author is a business commitment. You are running a business and a brand, and you're creating products that you are then selling. So I did a lot of research. I worked with a ton of authors, and I was really well researched before I stepped into publishing. Now, you've heard my publishing story before. I actually didn't intend to be published. I was reading through some books and I couldn't find another book that I wanted to read that filled the hole in the heart that a certain book left. And so I wrote a story. And then I wrote another story, and then I wrote another story. And by the time I got to book 3 or 4, I realized if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to need to make some money off of this, because it's a very big time commitment to write novels, and I have to pay my bills. So I can either become a published author, or I can stop this and I can just every once in a while write a little bit for fun. And I chose to go down the career path with that because I was already so ingratiated into the publishing space. So I started my querying process. I did a lot of research. I started the querying process. I had a number of agents and publishers that wanted several of my books. I had contracts offered to me, and I turned them all down. They were not good fits for me. I saw red flags. I did not think the money was good enough. I didn't like the people who were making me offers. And it all worked out really well. It worked out so well for me because some really bad, shady things went down in some of those publishing houses that I turned down after they harassed me for not signing their contract. So I made some good choices. I had a fantastic publishing lawyer who helped guide me along the process as well and confirmed I was correct in turning those things down. And so I went into the indie space first. Now, I am both indie and traditionally published throughout my career, so I have experience in both, but I did jump into the indie space through a collaborative publishing house. So everybody was independently published, but we operated under an umbrella name, so it looked like a traditional publisher while we were all responsible and in charge of our own things. No money was exchanged hands except for ISBNs because it had to be under the same name, and that was just the cost of it. There was no profit in that. And then we were responsible for getting our own editing, our own formatting, our own cover design, all of those things. And so I released my Golden Trilogy, the first book in the Golden Trilogy, and very quickly after I released the first book in the Jaded Duology. So I had 2 series out at the same time, and I was able to build from there. I did some novellas, I did some more standalones and some more series and a whole bunch of really cool things. And through that, I was able to create interactive choose your own adventure video games for my stories. And so if you remember way back when, I actually created interactive games on Facebook Messenger. So you could go to my Facebook page, my author Facebook page, and play games for the Golden Trilogy, the Jaded Duology, and some of my other books as well. And then through those games, you could make decisions. You were going to take something here and drop something off here and run missions for different characters and all the things. Then when you read the book, those objects that you delivered, the things that you did, show up in the book. You become a character inside of the novel. So if you played the game after you read the book and then you go back and read the book again, you will see that you were actually in the book. It was really cool. I got to do, prizes and giveaways and freebies and all sorts of things that people won at the end of these games. And it was so well received that because I was doing these choose your own adventure games, the company that made the chatbots that allowed me the technology to do that saw what I was doing, and they wanted to talk to me. But then they told Facebook about me. Facebook asked about me, and they connected me to an employee at Facebook where they interviewed me for a spotlight on my innovative work in the field of messenger bots because of the games that I created for my novels. So I did a lot of things in my early career that were so influential, not just in the book world, but in the entire social media marketing landscape. It was really a very cool experience, especially back in my early days. But let's back up just a little bit, because back in 2017, I had queried books, turned them all down, and waited a full year before I published my novels, before I came out as an indie author. I had to be very strongly convinced by the gal in charge of that collaborative publishing house to do it. And she eventually convinced me to do it, and it was so well received. I got to do talk shows. I got to do just launch parties for authors. I got so much praise. There were so many good things that came from it. But 2 weeks before my debut novel came out, my grandmother unexpectedly died. She was so excited for me to be a published author. She had seen my book, but she had not been able to read it. And there was a medical emergency, and she ended up passing away a few days later, right before, literal days before my first book came out. And you know in this space, your debut is so important. It is so important to market and to be there and to be engaged with your audience and all these things, because you're brand new and you're building things up and you are coming from a place that is unestablished, and I was working with a company that publishing umbrella that was highly unestablished, and it was all on me. Everything was on me. And so I had like 10 days. I think it was like 10 days she died before my book came out, and I had to get through that and the funeral and all of those things, and then figure out how to do marketing and how to be happy on my live stream. And you know what? Here's just a beautiful story from that. I was so sad. I was so heartbroken. Right before we were doing all of my launch stuff, we were going through my grandmother's things, and I found this beautiful multi-strand beaded gold necklace. And I said, my sister and cousins and I were picking out jewelry for ourselves, and I said, this is it's gold. My book is called Golden, so this is how I'm going to incorporate my grandmother to be a part of something she was so excited for and didn't get to see. And so I had a book necklace, and that led to every single one of my novels having at least one, probably like 5 specific necklaces that I made or created or acquired specifically to that book. And anytime in the first like 3-4 years of my career that I did an event or an interview specific to those novels, I would wear that necklace to represent the book. I then went on to create bookish jewelry that I sold with my books at book signings. And so people could get the novels, they could get the omnibuses, they could get other swag, but they could also get jewelry to wear to go with the books, hand created by me to represent the novels and those characters. So I've had the opportunity to go to some really cool book signing events. One of my publishers sent me to New York Comic Con one year, and I got to stay in a hotel literally overlooking Times Square, the stairs in Times Square. I watched that from my hotel room every single night. And I got to meet people like Jodie Benson and Paige O'Hara, who are the voices of Ariel and Belle in Disney movies. And I got to meet really cool people, some really cool designers and cosplayers. And I got to go to different book signings at the beach and across the country and in cities that I've never been to before. I have had people fly in to meet me. I've had people try to come across the world to meet me, but the pandemic hit, so that was a thing. But I mean, I've been to book signings where people were across the room, saw me, screamed, ran across the room, threw themselves at me, and nearly fainted because they were so excited to meet me. And another author had to take care of that person because I had a line of people to sign books for. And so I've had some really, really cool experiences. I've also had some scary, dangerous, inappropriate things happen at book signings and stuff like that, because that's just sometimes author life, unfortunately. But I've also had people take care of me during those situations. I've had the opportunity to speak at mermaid conventions, and I've had the opportunity to do major global live streams. I've also had the opportunity to represent different brands and businesses because of what I do as an author. So I've really had so much happen, so many doors open in my life because of my author world. And I have written well over 24 books. I'm not going to lie to you, the last couple of years, I really haven't written. I really have not done very much because I ended up with so many losses in my family and in my life over the last couple of years. Just everything has happened in a short period of time for me. And it's all been since I started my author career. Connection, I don't know, but the last couple of years, I really haven't written very much because I've had to do so many other things. And I just haven't had the ability and the bandwidth to do that. I'm now back into writing. I just crunched out a really cool novel. I just crunched out editing a novel from like 2015 that I refused to give to publishers, but they were clamoring over. So that's about to come to you in the not too distant future as well. I'll keep you posted on that. I have plans for it, but I've got some really cool things in the works as well. So I have been able to experience a lot and do a lot. But the thing that I take away from this and the thing that I impart to you is that your author career is what you make it. If you wait around for other people to celebrate you, it's not going to happen. If you're not the one throwing your own book launch parties and giving yourself the cake and taking yourself out to dinner and doing the fun events and pitching yourself for opportunities at libraries and schools and conventions and different places, if you're not taking the initiative, you're not going to have a very interesting author career. You have to be the one to do the live streams, to get people to show up, to lead the way, and to make it a romanticized version of author life, because truly we live behind our computer screens. We sit in isolated spaces by ourselves, and if we don't make author friends, if we don't create author spaces, if we don't do things that are fun and help us to commemorate what we're doing and celebrate what we're doing, it's not going to happen. It's going to feel isolated, it's going to feel boring, and you're not going to stick with it because it's not going to live up to your expectations if you don't make it. No one else is throwing you a book release party unless it was me back in 2017. Nobody is going to be calling you out and celebrating you and putting you up for magazine issues and doing articles on you and all these things unless you're putting in that effort. So your author career is what you make it. If you want to love your author career, make it good. And if you want to just sit around and do nothing, you can anticipate that things are not going to go as bright and shiny and sparkly as you would like them to go. So taking it into your own hands really makes or breaks your author career. And that goes for marketing, that goes for just enjoying your time doing this, that goes for making friends, that goes for being included in events and articles and all of those things. Taking the initiative changes the game when it comes to your author life. And you are the person that can make this the coolest experience or the worst experience, no matter how good your book is selling. Drop your questions down below and let me know what I should do to celebrate my 7th author anniversary. And let me know, should I shout out some of the people who came up with me who were debuts the same time that I was a debut? Because there was an actual group of us back in the day who did some really cool things together for a hot second. If you want to talk about some of the swag that I made based off of that event for my books, let me know down below. I'll see you in the upcoming episodes as I continue to help you navigate the world of your author life, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable year ever with the least amount of stress and overwhelm and time commitment on the content you are creating to make this beautiful, gorgeous, glamorous, romanticized author life that you have always dreamed of, while also being able to live your life. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.